Good evening, everybody, and welcome again to Magdalena Ministries, where I come on and share live regarding injustice and lack of knowledge within the court system surrounding addiction, which is a very, 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 very broad term and very clearly misunderstood and not understood within the courts. And the reasons that I do these lives is because I'm calling for change within the judicial system in terms of those who have what they call addictions. It really is getting worse in terms of knowledge, lack of knowledge. And today I was sitting in court well, it was in relation to my wee dog, Jacob, who is a collie, Staffordshire Cross. And what he did was normally reacted to someone who did not, with due diligence, see that he was a nervous dog and still proceeded to put their hand down to him. And the consequences are we're at court with adjourned dates, with the talk of death for my dog, with the talk of destruction for my dog. But whilst I was there, I was observing the system and how it's working. I had to observe a lawyer plead or not, just oppose what a sheriff who was intent on 3 occasions in terms of addiction was absolutely gunning for a custodial sentence. Now, one was a 19-year-old. Now, I can imagine that 19-year-old then being given a custodial sentence, which, in my view, held him at Shotts Prison with a maximum security with lifers. If he was subjected to a custodial sentence as a first offence, then he who knows? I mean, we've had it in the past where people have been given custodial sentences and then they've hung themselves and they've committed suicide whilst they've been in jail. The second one was a 23-year-old with 2 children and clearly had alcohol use disorder, which is never mentioned in the courts. Never. It's never brought up in the courts. It's a case of well, you know, you did the crime and you'll do the time, basically. It's so black and white, and there's just no room for negotiation in the middle in terms of alcohol use disorder and the broad term used by professionals who, in my opinion, really don't know the depths of it. He was again threatened with a custodial sentence, and if it wasn't for his lawyer debating in the court for 20 minutes, that man would have been down just now and transported to one of the most horrific establishments you can ever wish your son or daughter to be in, because he has an addiction. And the third youngster was again threatened with a custodial sentence. Right off the gun, you know, right off the bat, just straight away. That was the first option available, which was custody, again, until some lawyer who was obviously trauma informed was able to stand and speak to the sheriff in terms of legislation and in terms of the need to understand addiction in a broader term. So we're still in courts where draconian ways are being used by sheriffs. Now, you can take this any way you like, but some sheriffs, I feel, are just of the mindset that if somebody is inebriated, if somebody's presenting with different behaviours, if somebody comes into the contact with police are believed automatically, regardless of whether they're telling a pack of lies, and that person's then dealt with, or could be dealt with, extremely punitively, and that could result in the end of life. I've seen it so many times before. 17-year-olds going to Pullman and committing suicide, young lassies getting sent into Cornton Vale and hanging themselves. And I think it really is time for the criminal justice system to actually sit up and notice. Supervision orders from social work are really not hitting the mark, because again, within that whole system and that establishment, alcohol use disorder, which has 11 criteria. It is a psychological craving for alcohol, which then, regardless of the circumstances to the user, causes destruction, causes mayhem, and causes almost ultimately causes contact with police Scotland, who are ill-equipped to deal with that at all. So I'm trying to just convey a message of urgency that the injustices that are happening, the voiceless are not being represented properly, and the advocates are sometimes frightened to actually bring up the fact that that young person or that person is showing signs of not problematic, disruptive, destructive, disregard for the law behaviours, but a psychological disorder, an actual mental health disorder, which is called alcohol use disorder, manifesting in that youngster at a very young age. It's being missed. Well, it was being missed today. And I believe that mental health and addiction, again, I use the term broadly because a lot of people just flag it about and have got no idea what they're talking about. But certainly in court today, I saw a sheriff who thought that it was a lifestyle choice, which to me is absolutely and utterly appalling. So again, it's a call for separate mental health courts and specialists, particularly people who have lived experience like myself and have then had the due diligence and the strength to go and qualify myself in order that I can understand fully from a medical profession, from a psychological profession, and also from a spiritual perception, and also from, you know, the stems of the illness, rather than it being viewed just solely as behaviours which are against the law. This is an epidemic, again, you know, amongst youngsters who are showing signs of it. It's an epidemic amongst people who are caught in trauma and caught in addiction, again, big word. They are caught in the 11 symptoms of alcohol use disorder, and the revolving door within the criminal justice system just keeps going round and round and round and round. And to me, trauma-informed practice within the criminal justice system is negated because a sheriff who wants to sit on the bench, hear the facts and decide that he wants to you know, give someone a custodial sentence without fully understanding the illness that that person is presenting with, to me is absolutely shocking. It really is shocking. And so the message today is a voice for the voiceless once again, those who are trapped and caught now in a system which does not understand the illness of alcohol use disorder, does not understand the illness of, you know, someone who is dependent on substances, and does not deal appropriately with those youngsters spanning up. This illness really does not, it's not a particular group. I've witnessed myself, lawyers, doctors, nurses, straight across the board, people who are manifesting with this illness. It's a killer. It really is a killer. It's an epidemic, and there is, at the moment, the drugs and alcohol epidemic in Scotland is through the roof, and the suicide levels because of untreated alcohol use disorder, misdiagnosed, completely unrecognised. It's time that this word alcohol use disorder was used within the criminal justice system, the social work system, NHS Scotland, in order for them to, first of all, identify if that person is showing symptoms of the 11 that come along with it. And if they are, and they are engaged in the criminal justice system because of that, then a different intervention completely has to take place. But first of all, it's all about education. And again, I've been chapping on doors to educate those people who deal with people who have alcohol use disorder, which is undiagnosed and undetected and untreated and very dangerous. And as such, as today, every single person or every agency that I've spoken to have said that they are fully trauma informed and that they understand the concepts of addiction. And again, I totally disagree. So it's time for a change. It's time for separate courts. It's time for separate assessment systems. And it's time, if a young person or an older person or a middle-aged person is flagged up with having this disorder, that they are heard, first of all, that they are not just silenced by continual shame-enforcing practices telling them, just stop it, just stop it, just you can just stop it. That's like telling a cancer patient, sorry if you disagree, but that's like telling a cancer patient who's at stage 4 that what they can do is they can just stop it. It's in the same line, it's the same severity, and it really, really does need addressed. Courts are not equipped for people coming through who are caught in the epidemic of alcohol use disorder. Social workers are needing trained, NHS workers require training, fresh training from a person who has 20 years of lived experience and then is qualified at psychotherapist level, social work level, and understands the illness to an absolute T. So it's time for people to put aside their pride. It's time for these so-called professionals to put aside their reluctance to be enlightened and trained in the fact that 95% of people who are presenting at court doors today have alcohol use disorder, and a custodial sentence does absolutely nothing to address that. So let's not take it to the point where it's too late. Let's catch it when the symptoms are beginning to show, and let's use more money within the NHS to have full psychological evaluations under Section 51A of the Mental Health Act, preferably not by a psychiatrist or a psychologist who thinks that alcohol use disorder is a lifestyle choice, because that's probably just about as much use as me getting up and banging my head off of a brick wall 10 times. That'll do me no good. And a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a psychotherapist who does not understand that alcohol use disorder is a disease and is killing, it's taking lives constantly. It's an epidemic, and it requires understanding. It requires the stigma, the prejudice to be put aside. Whatever values you carry in terms of whether you think that somebody who presents as a, what you would quote and unquote, drunk, or a junkie, or somebody who's misusing substances, actually has a disease which is untreated and requires urgent help. So it's a mind shift. It's a total 360 mind shift from those people who are unfortunately planted within the establishment, the system, who think that alcohol use disorder is a lifestyle choice and that somebody who will continually drink themselves into oblivion is something that they actively choose. It's the biggest load of abhorrent nonsense I've ever heard in my life, and it requires complete and utter immediate redress. So have a lovely evening, everybody, and a peaceful evening, and just full of joy. Bye now.